Speaking about the judicial system being a mess, interesting. I did not expect this. I did not see this coming. So after Justice Frank Seepersad, he had his exchange or his... It wasn't necessarily an exchange because from what I understand, the Commissioner of Prisons wrote to the Minister of National Security and Justice Seepersad took a bit of an offense to it. Like, I'm not under y'all, I don't work for y'all, and by the law, I could come whenever I feel the need to come on official business to inspect the prisons based on law. It says any time, any day. Apparently, the judiciary put out a statement that somewhat contradicted that stance, only for another judge to basically have to push back on it and say, no, and give her opinion on the law being, she used the same phrasing, the law states anytime, any day. And I find it interesting now that, because for lack of a better word, it's the justices are disagreeing with the judiciary on this matter. What does that mean? Is it that there is, what is the motivation of the judiciary? Because when the justices are basically quoting the law verbatim, they're not editing the law. When they're quoting the law, I'm saying it is what it is. I'm wondering, what is the motivation behind the judiciary? Because it's not as though the judiciary is quoting relevant sections of law and saying, well, this is what takes precedence or anything like that. They're just saying, well, no, it should be this.
Don't you get the impression that the tentacles of the government are reaching very far and wide? Don't you get that impression when you read this? The judiciary is actually, there's no separation of powers. And that's the job of a lawyer and even a judge as it relates to actually having to interpret the law and argue based off of that interpretation or give judgment based off of that interpretation. But for me, if I'm being honest with you, I wasn't too familiar with the law. So when this story arose and I was reading it, it was not something that I was entirely familiar with. Mm-hmm. And I think it's something that, even our guest commentator on Fridays, Janelle John Bates, she can probably speak to us about that as well. But on the face of it, my one interpretation is very much simple. The Minister of National Security hasn't made any further comment, even after the release from the judiciary.
Yes. In fact, I'm not even too sure if he made a comment at all.
He made a comment before, right? And when I say a comment, I meant
a letter was written to him.
Through a letter,
okay.
Right? And that is what I mean. And there's been, as far as we're aware, no communication since then. Maybe he didn't have to clarify himself. Maybe he didn't have to clarify his questioning because someone in the judiciary did it on his behalf. I go back to the entire issue of the Chief Justice and the Director of Public Prosecutions when the Chief Justice sought to come out and make a statement. And again, it's selective. So to me, it goes back to the entire notion of the tentacles of the government are very far-reaching. And they've infiltrated certain parts of the state that are supposed to be separate, and that is most likely what we are seeing here. But I'm due to be corrected on the law itself.
The thing is, the statements of the Chief Justice, basically speaking, if we just think of it as a debate between him and the DPP, the Chief Justice statements look pathetically weak. Pathetically weak. He's basically saying, well, why didn't do this? And the DPP was like, because I wasn't given this, and this. Because I cannot do this, and this, right? And basically all but saying, why are you asking me these pretty foolish questions on why I can't spend money that I don't have? How am I supposed to do that? Am I allowed to raise money? Could I charge people extra fees in order to get this done? Where is the money supposed to come from? The sky? Now, in this case, the judiciary is saying, well, because of how it's normally done, right? And also, because there's an inspector of prisons, the inspector of prisons should inspect prisons. And it's basically trying to say, well, because of that, you shouldn't really inspect prisons, and the minister has the authority to, authority to make rules for the powers and duties of visiting justices, official ministers, ministers of religion, and personal aid societies. And I'm very much I find it very, very frightening that the judiciary is going to lump visiting judges with those other things. Because the separation of powers, the checks and balances, first of all, you cannot equate a visiting judge to a visiting minister or a visiting member of parliament. Those are not the same things.
Why would you not want, why would you prohibit members of the media or even judges? Why would you prohibit judges or even members of the media from seeing death row?
Media. Now, there are security concerns. So on that basis, I'm willing to accept
No,
it.
you're not allowed to take photos. In many instances, you're not allowed to. But why not write a report in it? Is the condition so appalling?
There's also a risk of you just putting outsiders in a risky situation. No, I get it though. It does look as though that the prisons are looking to hide as much as possible. But my point is, for a judge who is visiting because he is sitting in on a case, he's not just, oh, I want to visit because I want to make a political statement. Maybe he wants to make a political statement, but he has a case, right? And according to the law, in the business of his duties, conducting his duties of overseeing a case, he has the authority to go and visit the prison. So to say now that the minister has the capacity to tell the judge what he can and cannot do and limit his authority as he is overseeing a case, that is a slippery slope. And whoever is I'm going to just say it plain, whoever is the fool in the judiciary, right, to think, well, no, it's only about in this small capacity. You open the can of worms, you set the precedent for that to now encroach further and further on the separation of powers. There's a reason why judges have so much authority to conduct their business. They are not supposed to be operating under the thumb of any sort of government minister.
It's already encroached upon. It's not 100%, but it's already encroached upon.
Well, they're making it very blatant. And that is also foolish.
I think for some time it's been blatant.